Welcome to the Informal Game. I'm Griff. I've got Chris behind the camera, and he's the mystery man that you will never see because he presses the go button on the camera and never actually appears in front of the camera. Today we're just going to talk a little bit about something that maybe a lot of you don't think about, which is doors in your dungeons. So stay tuned. Doors. We're going to talk about doors. You probably think I've lost my mind at this point, but doors are kind of an important part of dungeon architecture. They keep people from moving around. Sort of the unconscious, subconscious aspects of the doors are that there are things behind the doors that you can't see until you open the door. So yeah, I've been thinking a lot about doors. I'm kind of a weird guy. I break everything down into little tiny pieces with my game. And doors were something I started thinking about even when I was a kid, because the only real information we had was what Gary Gygax said in these books here. There's also some writing about it, of course, in the blue cover books. But the initial writing on doors that Gygax provides to players is really minimal. It's just let me see if I can get I lost my place. There we go. It's just a very simple half a paragraph or 2/3 of a paragraph. It just says, doors must be forced open by strength, a roll of a 1 or a 2 indicating the door opens. Although smaller and lighter characters may be required to roll a 1 to open doors. There can be up to 3 characters attempting to force open a door, but this will disallow them rapid reaction to anything awaiting them on the other side. So that's kind of interesting. Maybe they were doing something in their games where if you were the one forcing open the door, then if something's on the other side of the door, you push it open and something hacks at you or something like that. He goes on to say that most doors will automatically close despite the difficulty in opening them. So that's kind of a weird one. They automatically close. It's sort of like being, in a little shopette or something. I don't know. Doors will automatically open for monsters unless they are held shut against them by characters. Doors can be wedged open by means of spikes, but there is a 1/3 chance, a die roll of 5 or 6, that the spike will slip and the door will shut. So we have really simple rules for doors, and we just played with those for a long time, but I always wondered. It was always strange to me because I wasn't sure if we were like kicking in doors, like on a cop show where you break the frame of the door and the lock is broken and everything, or if we were forcing them open like is described here. Now that I'm rereading it, I'm realizing that he's implying that maybe the doors are just expanded from the moisture in the dungeon, and or they're just old and rickety and you've got to like push them open. So I kind of took that and I started thinking about what I had seen of Arneson's work with dungeons. You can see in Tonisborg, Greg Svensson draws his doors the same way that Arneson drew his doors. The first published dungeon by Arneson was the one that was in this supplement, the Blackmoor supplement. And you can actually see that on his maps he did something quite interesting, which is he noted which direction the door opens, which is a lot different from what you see in the traditional Dungeons & Dragons published books, which just have a little rectangle to represent a door with a line through it. I can actually pop that open just to show you as a reference. We got this one here. If you look at this one, here it is. You can see the doors here are these little rectangles. But Arneson actually took the time to note which direction his doors opened in the Temple of the Frog. So you have all these little tilted lines, and those tilted lines represent doors that swing open all throughout the whole map. So that's kind of a very unique thing that Arneson was doing. He was letting his players know which way the door opens. So I got to thinking about that, and I was like, well, maybe maybe I need to have some way for players, if they're forcing it open, they need something to grab onto. So maybe all my doors in my dungeon have like some sort of, either a door, like a bar on them, or else maybe a ring that you pull on, just hanging off the door. Some way for them, if the door is opening toward them, they have to be able to pull it toward them. The other thing that's kind of interesting is that this implies that then none of the doors in dungeons are locked, and that's kind of disappointing for thieves. So sometimes when I'm creating a dungeon, I'll roll a d6, and I'll have like maybe on a 1 or a 2, the door is locked. Otherwise, it's not locked, it's just stuck. And that gives my thief characters something to do. One thing I've done to make doors more varied is some doors are more stuck or somehow more difficult to open. So if a door is harder to open, I'll put a little note next to it, like a little asterisk on the map itself, and I'll just put an 8 there. And that means that when a character wants to get through that door, using these rules anyway, instead of rolling a d6, they have to roll a d8, so it's a little harder. That's kind of a nice little bonus touch that surprises players when they run into it. You can do the same thing with locks for thieves. If a lock is really easy, the thief rules, they didn't really use challenge rolls in OD&D, but you can put a little mark next to the door and do like a +30, and it's like, oh, that's an easy lock. You get a +30% on your chance to roll to open the lock or something like that. Just some useful little ideas. I like exploring rules. I'm a minimalist, and so I always kind of break it down to the most simple way to use rules to get through an adventure, because I like to stay really focused on the interactive part of the game. But maybe this will get some ideas sparking in your head about how you deal with doors. I don't know. I think doors are kind of interesting because they're part of what I was talking about last time, where you have a dungeon where things aren't automatically revealed. You come to doors. People come to doors. They look for traps. They listen at the door to see if there's anything on the other side. Of course, unfortunately, undead don't make any sound. And then they force it open to discover what's on the other side. And so it's sort of, it kind of adds more onto that element of discovery. Hopefully you don't think I'm a complete lunatic for wanting to talk about doors, but I think doors are kind of interesting in dungeons because there's a lot of history on how they were drawn and how we implement them in our games. And yet what has been written within the books about doors is like literally just a paragraph in each book. There isn't a lot of information about what they look like, what they're made out of, anything. It's just assumed you will know what a door is. And so, yeah, I don't know. It's just another one of those offbeat topics that Griff likes to talk about. Please take a moment to hit the like and subscribe, and then come back next week and watch more of The Informal Game.